How's it going, guys? It's Sikanda with Technically Funny, and we are here today with the creator, director, and general maestro of the award-winning zombie podcast, We're Alive. It's KC Wayland. How's it going?
Hi, thanks for having me on here. It's good to be here.
Yeah, that's fine. I again, just want to thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. Really appreciate it. In fact, just to let the listeners know, you're currently in California, and it's
I'm currently in my office, which is why I kind of laughed at when I said I'm glad to be here, and I'm in my office.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
And what time is it over there? It's like just gone 5 p.m.
Oh yeah, just about 5 p.m. I just got off of work and strolled in here, and I know it's like 1 or 2 p.m.
It's 1 in the morning, and it's raining here, and it's cold. But just want to let you know how badly we wanted this interview, so there's no pressure or anything.
Oh no.
Okay, so we just get started. Just for the listeners who don't know, there's so many ways to explain what We're Alive is, and there's so many categories you could put it into. But how would you explain the show? How would you describe it?
I think the best way to describe it is it's basically a movie that you're listening to, just up to dated, like an old-fashioned audio drama. Is like even that's not even simple to explain. You're basically listening to a story in your mind and hearing everything that's happening, all the sound effects, all the characters, the story, music. Is the whole world unraveled just through your headsets or speakers.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And just to get a clear idea, just to go way back before we all started, how did you come up with the whole premise and the idea? What was it that just sparked your mind? Like, I want to do something like this.
The actual premise, weirdly enough, We're Alive started as a need to fill a vacuum for a TV show about zombies. Now, this was in 2009, before Walking Dead was even a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they don't really have any serial survival shows about this thing. And I'm like, I got this. I've just been thinking about this story for a while. I thought about it a little bit when I was overseas, and I'm like, I really want to do this. How can I start it? And the idea of doing something audio with no limitations on production seemed like the best launch pad to go from here and then jump over to TV. And then they made Walking Dead in the middle of the season. It's like,
Yeah. So when you had the idea, you had it from scratch to be an audio show. You didn't decide, like, we'll do audio afterward. You just thought straight off the bat it's going to be an audio show rather than anything else.
The story itself was the idea itself was going to be for TV, but the delivery format for us when I started writing it was going to be audio, because you have to write something specifically for audio.
Yeah.
It's hard to adapt something, especially with some of the things that we tell in the story are kind of tailored for the audio world and the perception of, a name in an audio world is extremely important and stuff like that. And certain things like the ocean scenes were, very audio driven.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot with audio, and you have to kind of tailor the story just a little bit, but it's specifically, just for audio.
Okay, cool. So once you got the whole idea together, how did everything unfold afterwards? I mean, did you already have an idea for the cast, or was the cast already there for the premise of the TV show, or did you have to go out and hunt?
There's no TV show as of yet. But for the audio show, when the first chapter was written and all the outlines were made, it was just some not blank characters, but all the characters were there. It just had to find the right people that fit the part. And then later on, in our casting session, it was just a lot of luck to find the right people who just fit in the right spots. And it's just, if we didn't find those actors on the first day, it would have been a nightmare. But it was like, got some of the greatest actors. We just lucked out so much. And the great thing is, not only have they grown, but also the characters have grown kind of into them a little bit. And, it's made it, very fluid between them, and it's but overall been a really rewarding experience.
Cool. Because it is an audio drama, I mean, some would say that you have a harder job to paint the picture of the scene to the listener using nothing but the audio. But I mean, because I've listened to it from the first episode, and it seems like every episode, the way you do it with the audio is like absolutely perfect. You don't really need to view anything because the audio paints it just as you would see it in a movie. And in terms of the audio, how long does it take you to get the audio just right? To set the right tone and atmosphere. Do you edit it quite heavily each episode, or is it quite straightforward?
It's rough. That part of it is the longest process of getting video. And it's a multi-stage process because I'll just kind of guide you through it a little bit. We have our recording sessions, and then we usually do 2 chapters at a time, and from there we have to do a voice cut, specifically get all the performances of the actors. Sometimes they don't all perform on the same day, so we have to bring them all together, and that alone takes a huge amount of time to go through all the takes and be like, okay, this is the take that we want for this line, and that, and then it goes from that stage to first cut, and we have editors who work on it probably around at least 8 to 10 hours for the first cut, and then it comes to me, and then I work on it anywhere from 12 to 20 hours additional just for each episode.
That's each episode, yeah.
So each episode in all, voice cut takes anywhere from 20 to 40 hours, depending on how complex it is.
Cool. So with all the sounds that you've got recorded and everything you've got for previous episodes, do you have hard drives full of zombie noises, and do you just recycle them, or
okay. It depends on the episode. A lot of the footsteps and things, for the most recent episodes, a lot of them we've been recording the footsteps and things, a lot of Foley work, which means they're very specific to every shuffle and every movement is specific to what somebody's talking, because it's really hard to do sound effects on there. We've done it in the past, and we do it here and there, but it's getting more and more progressively harder in the scenes that we're in. And a lot of the other sound effects, we do have sound effects libraries that we've purchased, used. But it all depends on what the sound effect is like. The gunshots, we would never be able to record those ourselves at this moment. Some of the explosions and things like that. Those things are extremely difficult to record on your own. But at the same time, that's the sound effects libraries come into play, and it's like, oh, good, a whole bunch of stuff there.
Cool. When you're recording the scenes, I mean, I imagine it to be like recording a movie. Do you have some more complex scenes where you have to retake them over and over again, or are the casts generally good where you do one take and you get the first take right each time?
Typically, it all depends. As of recently, I've made us do 2 takes each scene, and the reason is for that is just for safety and coverage. Yeah. I'll do the scene once, and then I'll have a couple maybe adjustments here or there that I'll tell them, and then we'll record it again. And that's the typical route. Sometimes we've done a scene over and over and over again until it gets the way I like it. But it all depends on what the scene is, who's in the scene. There's so many little factors. It's like, there's a beat that we're missing here, or a stress that we're go ahead and go back and do this part again, or the pacing's off, or it all depends on the scene. And I've gotten to the point where I never want to do a scene once and then call it cut, and then move on. Because when you edit it later, there might be something or a word that's messed up that really is important. Especially with audio, if somebody messes up a word,
you gotta redo it all over again.
Especially with narrations, if somebody messes up a word on a narration, that's the late part. It's like, no, go back and we got to do that one again.
Cool. We'll just come on to the characters in the show. I won't get too much in terms of the storyline to try to keep it spoiler free. But basically, Real Life starts with 3 soldiers, Michael, Angel, and Sol, who are basically just kind of thrust into the zombie apocalypse event. Now, over the course of the show, the episodes focus in and out on various characters and their development. And in terms of Michael, Angel, and Sol, I understand you served in Iraq for over a year.
I did.
And filmed the feature-length documentary, The 365 Boots on the Ground.
Yes, I did.
Just because with those kind of experiences with serving in Iraq and the documentary, how much of that did you pour into these three characters, if anything?
That experience, that deployment, is a huge chunk of We're Alive, if not a massive chunk of it. Just because of a couple things. One of them is the people.
Yeah.
In being in that situation, it really made me think a lot about what kinds of people there are. And you're around people all the time in a very high stress situation, and that's hand in hand of what We're Alive is. A lot of people thrown together in very rough situations, and how they react to them. And so, like, there was the grounds for a lot of what We're Alive is based off of. And there's certain people that inspired, characteristics of character. There was somebody who I worked with who reminds me very much of Saul. Saul is like a hybrid of that person, just little things may have taken from them.
Yeah.
I had an officer that I worked with very much like Angel, real big pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And Bert is like a conglomeration of a variety of different people molded into one. And it's just, I'd say a lot of it came from just, experiencing the world in a different way and seeing people come, how people react in these situations.
Yeah.
Right? What really ticks behind a person.
So, out of the characters in the show, there must be one that you've kind of written yourself into. Who would you say that is?
I would say the good and the bad sometimes of Michael.
Michael, okay.
Only because there's some things about him, like him in the military, and I can comment this about my own. He was very stressed about the people above him.
Yeah.
Sometimes very, very stupid, and having a real hard time adjusting to that. Like him being a sergeant, the people above him he didn't trust, and he got kind of down about the military in some ways, but he loves being in charge, and I think that in some ways I embody that as well. And then there's a lot of flaws that he has as well that are me, and then a lot of it also is just Michael as a character is just him.
Yeah.
Parts of me. I mean, because I think there's pieces I inject in each character of my own perspective, just because I think that gives a different worldview. Like I think there's hints inside of Pegs or Lizzie and Bert and Michael and Saul and Angel. Like I try and find little pieces that just I can connect with each person, and that way I can sort of identify them in some situations. That way I can find their voice and then write them on the page.
Cool. That's brilliant. Now I've been on the forums on zombiepodcast.com, and the fans of the show very passionate about it, and especially the characters. Since the series started, which character would you say has had the most positive reaction from the fans, and which one would you say has had the most negative?
Most positive, I'd have to say Bert. He seems to be everybody's favorite. I've gotten a couple of negatives about him because some people initially didn't like his voice.
Yeah, I felt a bit like that, to be honest.
So it took a little while for people to get warmed up to him, and then once they do, figure out who he is. They like him. They get in there. It's like it's just who he is, an old grumpy guy, and like tell it like it is. And I think that a lot of people just love his one-liners sometimes. Him and Saul, I think, are pretty popular.
Yeah, I would say Saul was probably my favorite. What about yourself? I mean, other than Michael, who would you say is your favorite one?
I have to say I love writing Bert, just because he's very much like my old man in some ways. And I put a lot of my dad in that character. Like his story about Vietnam and the tuna.
Yeah.
That was actually my story that he told me when I was young.
Ah, right.
That saved his life. My dad was old artillery, and so I made Bert old artillery. And that one night, I got called in because he got a tuna sandwich, and mortar came in right where his aspirant was on the sandbag, and I stole the story pretty much. Almost a couple of stories he told me, but it's pretty close, and I'm like, I'm stealing that.
Cool. So I mean, throughout the beginning of the show, a lot of characters have been brought in. When you do decide to introduce a new character, how far ahead do you plan for it? Do you just kind of do it on the fly, or is it written well beforehand before you get to the point?
Oh boy. I well beforehand. Like, not no joke. CJ was planned and written in like season one.
Oh, really?
Um, she didn't come out until season three. Obviously she's even mentioned in season one in chapter 11. Yeah, 11. And so she was planned out way a long time. Pippin was planned out chapter one. He was way in advance. Sometimes it just takes a while for those characters to show up, and then there's other characters that are very spur of the moment, kind of come out of the woodworks, and then just kind of blend into the story and become much bigger.
Yeah.
Victor was kind of like that. He wasn't as planned as many of the other characters, but because of his interactions with everybody and who he was, just seemed to fit, and so he became a very crucial part of the story after that.
Cool. I mean, in terms of doing flashbacks, and you kind of get a bit more of a knowledge of what the character was like, even if you didn't get the full story in the first place. Do you plan to do that a lot, or is it just like every now and then you're going to put that in there with flashbacks?
Well, it's where it's needed. I try. Flashbacks are a funny thing because yes, you get backstory, but at the same time, you're freezing the story in a.
Yeah.
And that, not to give too much away, but we did that recently, and it was positive and negative because you had some people who loved to get the blanks filled in, and other people are like, well, the story's not going anywhere right now. But at the same time, it's like, well, we have to give you the answers. And the only way we can do that is to kind of go back and tell you and fill in the blanks. Because one of my biggest rules about the show is I don't want to leave a lot of blank spaces when the series is over. I mean, there will be a couple here and there where you're going to have to figure out for yourself. For the most part, I want to fill in as much as possible, so it's not like there's a lot of open-ended questions.
Yeah, there was actually a question I'll ask you about that towards the end. Just something to do with Mass Effect 3. I'm sure you've heard of the controversy over that.
I know a little bit about it, not too much. I will say.
Okay.
I play it, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll get to that. Anyway. I mean, stick with the characters. I mean, the zombies themselves are kind of characters in their own right, because you've introduced like again, without giving too much away, just like different types and classes of zombies. Did you draw any kind of inspiration from Resident Evil games for that, with the different kind of classes and different abilities they have, or was that just something you...
I played a lot of those games when I was younger, and I would be really naive to say that didn't influence me at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also trying to do some original takes on things. It's hard. That's hard ground because that seems like everyone's done everything at least once, and it's like people have drawn so many parallels between us, and like, oh, this could be like this, and this could be like this, and it's like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to get around that. But for the most part, everything has a reason and an order behind it, and also there's not. I don't know much about Walking Dead. I actually avoid that show as much as possible. But
really?
Yeah, I've never watched it. I'm technically not allowed to. I'm not allowing myself to until We're Alive is over.
Oh, right, okay. Well, to be honest, the comic books are better anyway. Well, in my opinion.
Then either one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's. The zombies are them for a reason. But I think if they were all like shufflers and really slow moving and not like the way that they are in the series, it'd be worse as an audio drama because it wouldn't be as interesting. There wouldn't be the threat level would be less. I mean, you want to make everything as difficult as possible on the characters to make something as interesting.
Cool. Cool. I mean, looking ahead, We're Alive is in its third season now. There have been so many twists and turns along the way. Do you sometimes find it hard to keep the the script up to the same standard, as in always have something, throw something in there towards the end that will make the listener want to come back the following week, every single week? I mean, you guys manage to do that pretty much all the time. So, I mean, is that hard to keep doing that? I mean, do you always have to figure out new ways to get around it sometimes?
Enough. Sometimes it's never planned. It's just I have outlines for all the chapters, and it's like I have a couple different beats that I try to hit in each chapter, and it's like always seems to be like around that 20, 40, and 60-page mark. It's like, whoa, right there is the perfect place to leave off the episode.
Yeah.
Right on the spot. And then there's other times where it's like, early chapters especially, I was like, I don't have a spot to end this. There's a good spot. Go with it.
Yeah.
It all depends. I mean, there's sometimes sometimes we do the cliffhangers and that keeps people interested, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just a chapter end. Like very recently, well, I don't want to mention anything, but very recently there was just the characters kind of just walking away, and that was that. And it all depends on what the situation is.
Yeah,
but
I think those ones are the worst. When someone's about to go do something and you end it there, that's the best. That's probably the best way to keep people coming back every week. Because
I'll do it as least spoiler as possible. But the very last chapter, it's like, oh, we got to go do something now. Well, you're set. Let's go. Boom. End of episode. It's like, all right, cool. Right there, we're going to get people coming back and be in there. And the great thing about doing, I would call it my way, is we don't have formats we adhere to. Like, some episodes are shorter, some are longer. We don't have to put these on TV, so we can cut where we want to, and that what makes, I think, everything a lot more unbalanced for your typical listener.
Cool. Now, overall, do you? I'm sure I've read this somewhere that you have kind of an end date to the show. So you said there's a limited amount of seasons you want to do, and then you want to end it there. So was it 5 seasons or?
It's 4 seasons.
4 seasons.
That's pretty much set in stone now. Last season, I was debating on whether or not I had enough time to end the series in season 3, and it just was like, no, there's no chance. The events, I lined everything up on a board, and I'm like, here's all the events that need to happen. And I'm like, there, no, not enough time. So I had to push it to 4 seasons. Now, the 4th season could be longer or shorter depending on the content. I pretty much every time will go to content. I won't want to put something out that's not, I don't want to put there's not the content there.
So have you already got an idea for the end?
Oh, the ending was done when we started. It was already done way in advance because there's so many little tiny pieces in the story that lead up to that one final ending that if you don't do it early on, then you just can't do left field. I don't like the idea where it's like a messed up building. I want the structure to be like, okay, a good foundation, and then just build off of that to the very peak at the end when everything looks like it's in a nice, order.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, We Were Live started in 2009, so that's 3 years ago. And I think back then was when pretty much every form of media had zombies in there, like books, movies, video games. Zombies were pretty much everywhere at that time. When you released, when the first episode of We Were Live hit iTunes, did you ever expect it to be this successful?
Yes. Because I wouldn't, I always thought it would catch on. It just takes some time. But I always thought that if you build it, they will come kind of thing, where it's like the very first, I'd say 3/4 of the year was really difficult because we did not have a lot of listeners. We didn't have a lot of followers. We didn't have a lot of people interacting. And that was hard because it's like by the 9th chapter is about the time when we started really getting more people. And it's like it took such a long time to build that empire. It was difficult both with just morale and like, dude, I'm doing this every week. Like this is like a full-time second job for me, and it was rough because it's like, all right, well, if you build it, they will come. Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Keep at it. And then, and I'm still like that now. It's like I see us where we're at, and I think, oh, there's so much more we'll be able to do in time. You just gotta keep on, building.
Well, I mean, I remember it got once it did get a lot of popularity, especially in the States. You arranged live performances of the first 2 episodes. Do you plan to do a lot more of those, if any, or was that just like
We plan on doing one. We have one on the calendar, I think, set for sometime in July this year. It's going to take us a little bit to do to get everything arranged, and there's still a lot still up in the air because we have to arrange for all the cast members to get there. It has to be a chapter that we can easily do in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
You have to secure a venue, after party. You have to, it gets to be a really complicated process, and also at the same time, we're still producing alongside all these things. So it's something we definitely want to do, and I think we're going to do it. We want to make sure that all the pieces are in place.
Cool. I mean, once you reach the end of Real Life and the whole chapter that's finished, are you looking to spin-offs? Or, I mean, there's so many characters introduced, and they've all got their own stories that you can go into and have a show on their own. I mean, is there anything you would like to do, taken out of Real Life and given their own story, or would you rather go to something completely fresh after this?
I don't know. I've played around with a lot of different scenarios. Where Live popular is definitely a card that I can see was like, okay, well, Where Live is popular. If I do something again as a spinoff or related to Where Live, I understand that it would have automatic, listenership, viewership. At the same time, it's like, well, do I want to do something different? Do I have on my shelf about like 4 or 5 other stories that I could tell? One of them is as episodic as We're Alive, much different. And I'm like, well, I could do that one, or I could do that one, or I could do more. And there's a couple other storylines that are inside of We're Alive that I've kind of planned that I could do spin-offs with. But it all depends on what the end game is like. I'd love to do this full-time, and if I can do it full-time, that might be the best plan. But just getting myself to that point is the goal at this point. Right now, I'm still doing the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 job, and then come home, work on We're Alive till 10, and then go to bed. Repeat, rinse.
Yeah, same thing. Okay, so going back to Mass Effect, what we talked about earlier. Have you read much about what's happened with the game itself? Or?
I know that they got to the ending. The ending sucked, or whatever. People got upset with it, and then they protested, and now Mass Effect is coming out with more of an epilogue.
Yeah, so they're just going to amend it to keep people happy. And I think that the main the ending wasn't so much bad. In my opinion, wasn't that bad. I think it was just more people spent 5 years with these characters, and then the final chapter, the closure to these characters wasn't didn't give them a great deal to go by. Which could bring me to Real Life, because that's 2009 it started, and I'm guessing by season 4 finish should be next year, end of next year. So that's four years listeners would be spending with these characters, and listening to them develop and follow their stories. Are you comfortable that you've got like all the stuff ready to give closure, or are you a bit more pressure now, seeing what we've seen with stuff like Mass Effect and demand with social media getting it and demanding for the stories to be changed and stuff? Do you feeling a bit more pressure under that with that now, or are you happy with the?
Yes. Feel the pressure. No, honestly, it most likely will go something like this: is the ending was set, the ending will be revealed, and if people don't like it, then that's their thing. It's an ending, and I'm not going to change it based on popularity. I think people will enjoy the ending. I think people will like it. I don't want to give away too much, obviously, because it's a very thing. But I think the ultimate resolution will be enough finality. I'll do my best to make sure, because there are so many characters, and whichever ones survive, or if they don't survive and no one survives, I'll make sure that it's wrapped up in as nice a fashion as I can. That's about all I can say about that. And I'll probably have this conversation after it's all said and done.
So that's so you reckon it would be like another year then until this all done and dusted, and
Well, this year, the end of season 3 happens, I believe it's December this year, and then it'll be another like 4 or 5 months until season 4 starts. After that, and so when is that? So this season is 2000. We're in 2012. So 2000 end of 2012.
yeah.
And then another year after that. So we're looking almost July of 2014 is when it'll all be done. And that's just scary to think about that.
Cool. Well, okay. Well, I won't bug you anymore with the real life question now.
More than happy to talk.
Well, yeah, again, I appreciate you coming and answering the question. I mean, to be honest, when I sent you the email, it was more of a shot in the dark just to see if you were willing to come on. But it's great that you have. We really do appreciate it. What we do, because we're also a technology site as well, and we just like to learn what kind of tech you use in terms of like your mobile phone, your I think you guys call it cell phones over there, or tablets.
Oh, yeah.
So what phone are you using? What do you use as your daily driver?
I have an iPhone, iPhone 4S, and I love it because I like Unix, and I like the. Let me put it this way: the reason why I like the iPhone is a lot of reasons why I don't like PCs and I don't like Androids.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I used to hack the crap out of my computer. I used to build my own PCs. I used to custom modify all of Windows to the point where the little square aspect of it was modified. I love the fact that Mac is a closed, hardware qualified system, which means that when I go to play a game on my iPhone, I know that the developers have developed it for that iPhone. They qualified it, and they know that it works on there. Whereas the Android, there's so many different.
Yeah, it's just the fragmentation. So that's what the. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I mean, a lot of people tend to go towards the more open, do what you want with the software, with the operating system. So you're actually happy to have the closed ecosystem,
and it's very much just to give a little bit more background about it. Is like just like my primary operating system I'm using to edit We're Live is a Mac, and the hardware we use is Pro Tools. We're all Pro Tools based.
Okay.
And Pro Tools is such an advanced software that working it on a PC is very touch and go sometimes because they can't qualify every single USB chipset interface kind of thing, whereas on the Mac they can.
Yeah.
So I come up to my computer, I'm running Pro Tools on a Mac. I know that each and every time my experience, both my the interface, the hardware, is going to be the same every time, and it's going to be qualified by them. And Pro Tools on a PC sucks for that very reason. They can't qualify the experience, and that's just my background. And I think Unix is a much more pure operating system.
Have you thought of releasing possibly a real live application for the iOS store at all?
Worked with a guy in Japan a little bit on one. It's still in beta. They've worked on it a little bit here and there. So yeah, we've worked on one. The problem is to do one right would cost more of a budget than we have used in our entire, probably all 3 seasons. So we're very, very, very low budget. Some people may find that surprising. Where our big costs is blood, sweat, and tears, which means basically most of the work is done by ourselves. And so even though we're low budget and we have a pretty good product, it's mostly because of the people behind it rather than the dollar bills. And if we were to do an app, we'd have to hire somebody to make one because unfortunately we just don't know that kind of programming.
Yeah.
You know? And I wouldn't be crappy. I'd hate to put out something that's just awful.
Yeah. No. So I'll take it your next phone then. You're looking at the new iPhone when that's.
Yeah, I like the interoperability of going from one phone to the next. Like let's just put it this way: I've had Angry Birds on my phone, I started on my iPod, then went to my next iPod, went to my phone, and all my games data has gone from one device to the next. Yeah. I don't have to worry about it. not ever doing that because I'm really good at that game. Like I have three all the way through and like all the high scores, and I was
Yeah.
like in the.
Have you got the Angry Bird Space as well now?
I do. I've kind of fallen out a little bit with Angry Birds because it seems like they keep on putting out. They put out stuff faster than I can keep up with it, especially
Yeah.
with. But I'll play with it here and there and have fun with it. Yeah, it was a little bit too much content for me. And I mean, there's Angry Birds Space is a great concept. I love what they're doing. I hate the fact that they did in-app charging. I'm okay with it a little bit. The Mighty Eagle thing, sure, I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But then when you get Angry Birds Space and you see the first, there's like, oh, 3 levels, cool. I got a lot of content here. You get to the third one, they tell you, oh, surprise, you're gonna buy it. Like, no, screw you guys.
That's what it is. It's become a massive cash cow, though, isn't it? So.
Yeah, they're making money, and they charge like 4 times the cost for iPad.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. You have to buy it separately for the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, that is pretty much all of my questions. Again, I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time out to talk to us. It's actually learned a lot more than I thought I would, to be honest. But yeah, that's great.
Well, I mean, your stuff is right up our alley. I mean, if you threw any tech questions at us, I'm sure we can handle it.
That's brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. Anyway, with this, one last question. With this, the live voiceovers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't suppose you got any plans to do anything like that in the UK, or is it strictly in the States?
You know what? I will one day make it to the UK, but to get all the actors there at the same time, unless something great happens with this, I don't see it happening. I mean, there is the possibility of doing a meet and greet there. Matter of fact, we're doing one in New York. There's going to be 3 of us there in New York. It's going to be myself, the other producer, and Lizzie, because we're all going to the Audio Awards. And so we're doing something really informal there. And I'd love to do the same thing in England. So, I mean, if we get a chance to do it, yeah, I'd love to.
Cool. That's brilliant. Well, yeah. Again, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And again, congratulations with the show. Me personally, huge fan of it. Can't wait to see what happens. So yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.